I never thought I would see him again. Especially not in my apartment, wearing that ridiculous tie and that smug, overconfident smile. The kind of smile that says, I still think I own the world and maybe you too. I, on the other hand, was juggling a cup of lukewarm coffee and the heavy weight of my own disbelief. Emily, my roommate and secret savior of my sanity, peeked from the kitchen, eyebrows raised as if silently asking, "Did you just summon the apocalypse?" And maybe I did. Because there he was. Liam, my ex-boyfriend, standing awkwardly in my living room, looking like a man who had been forced into a tuxedo against his will and somehow expected applause. Only this time the stakes were higher than a high school crush or a drunken confession. This was marriage. Forced marriage. And the kicker? He was marrying me. My mind was screaming in a million directions. Part of me wanted to laugh, the other part wanted to throw the coffee at him, and the tiniest, most embarrassing part of me, Emily, noticed it too, felt something like satisfaction. Emily, with her disarming grin, sidled over and whispered, "Well, at least he's yours now." I gave her a look that could melt steel. "You realize this doesn't make it romantic?" She shrugged, leaning against the counter. "Romantic is overrated. This, though, chaos is beautiful." I had to admit she wasn't wrong. Chaos, after all, had always been my specialty. And Liam's sudden presence was about to turn my quiet apartment into a war zone of emotions I wasn't ready to confront. It all started years ago, in that dreadful phase of high school when I thought love was about dramatic gestures and late-night text messages that never got answered. Liam was everything I shouldn't have wanted. Charming, careless, a little cruel but impossibly attractive. And I fell hard. Emily had watched me spiral, quietly and wisely, the kind of friend who never interrupted but always saved you from yourself. She was my anchor, my mirror, my heart whispering, maybe someone else is better for you. Of course I ignored her. Liam and I had what everyone called a passionate relationship. I called it a lesson in patience, humiliation, and heartbreak. He broke up with me over something trivial, a misunderstanding that now seemed laughably insignificant. I cried, screamed, and spent months pretending I was over him while secretly wishing he'd stumble across some epiphany about true love. Years passed. I moved to New York, building a life with Emily that was full of laughter, comfort, and the kind of intimacy I never thought I could have. And then came the news that shook my carefully balanced world. Liam's family was pushing him into an arranged marriage. With me. I didn't know whether to feel amused or furious. Maybe both. He arrived at my door like a character from a romantic tragedy, too handsome to be ignored, too arrogant to be forgiven, and yet undeniably the same boy I had once loved. "Hi," he said, voice tight, like he had rehearsed it in front of the mirror. I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I studied him. The lines around his eyes suggested stress, the tightness in his jaw hinted at reluctance, and yet, he still had that irritating confidence. That I could charm anyone anytime confidence. Emily, ever the instigator, waved lazily. "Welcome back to hell." Liam chuckled, which sounded more nervous than genuine. He stepped closer. "I didn't expect this. To be your place." "Neither did I," I replied dryly, letting my tone carry the weight of years of unresolved tension. The first days were awkward, a delicate dance of coexistence and boundary testing. He tried to act as if nothing had changed, as if the years hadn't sculpted me into someone confident and unyielding, someone who no longer melted at his smiles. Emily, however, had other ideas. She orchestrated accidental brushings of hands, subtle teasing, and that little smile that said, "I see everything, and you're not going to escape it." One night, Liam and I found ourselves on the balcony, the city lights flickering like distant stars. The silence was heavy, thick with unspoken words. "Do you remember our first fight?" he asked suddenly, voice low. I arched an eyebrow. "Which one?" "We had plenty. The one that ended with you storming out in tears and me thinking I could fix it later." His laugh was bitter, almost broken. "You never fixed it," I said softly. "I'm trying now," he admitted, looking at the skyline as if searching for courage there. "I never realized how much I missed you. How much I—" He stopped, frustrated with his own words. Emily, watching from the slightly ajar kitchen door, shook her head with an exaggerated sigh. Leave it to Liam to make confessions dramatic. But there was truth in his eyes, a vulnerability I had longed to see. The stubborn boy who had once hurt me now stood exposed, unsure, seeking redemption in the quiet glow of streetlights. Days turned into weeks. We stumbled through the absurdity of forced engagement, dinner with his family, awkward brunches with mine, and the occasional domestic disaster that Emily thoroughly documented with sarcastic commentary. And yet, through the chaos, something remarkable happened. The old irritations softened. His teasing lost its sting, replaced with something warm. My heart, cautiously, began to respond to the nuances of his care, the way he noticed when I was tense, the way he made coffee just the way I liked it, the way his laughter no longer felt like a weapon but like an invitation. Emily noticed too. One evening as we sipped wine on the couch, she nudged me. "See that?" I followed her gaze to Liam, who was lying across the sofa, feet dangling off the edge, completely unaware of how endearing he looked. "He's changing," Emily said simply. "Or maybe you're finally letting him in." I rolled my eyes but didn't look away. She wasn't wrong. Weeks of awkward cohabitation turned into quiet routines. Cooking together, arguing over trivial things, laughing at memories we never shared. And then the turning point. A stormy night in Manhattan, rain hammering against the windows, wind howling like it was trying to force confessions out of us. We were trapped indoors, the electricity flickering, and I found myself holding a blanket that was supposed to be for Emily but ended up draped over both of us on the couch. "Remember when you used to steal my sweaters?" I murmured, voice barely audible over the storm. He looked at me, chest rising and falling rapidly. I think I remember everything. I wanted to protest, to deny the flutter in my chest, but words failed me. Instead, he leaned closer, and for the first time in years I let him see me, all of me, with none of the pretense or armor. And when he kissed me, it wasn't like the reckless, confusing kisses of our youth. It was soft, deliberate, filled with a promise I had waited years to hear. "I see you. I choose you." Emily, peeking from the kitchen once again, gave a thumbs up before retreating with her signature smirk. Life didn't suddenly become perfect. Arguments flared, doubts crept in, and sometimes the shadow of our past mistakes threatened to unravel everything. But slowly, tentatively, we built something real. Love that wasn't about passion or pride, it was about understanding, forgiveness, and the quiet thrill of being home in each other's presence. Marriage, once a source of dread, became a shared adventure. The world outside might have pushed us together, but what kept us entwined was the life we chose within our little apartment, the laughter, the shared late-night pizzas, the hands that found each other without thought. And Liam finally understood what I had always known. True love isn't about who you used to be with or the thrill of conquest. It's about the person who sees you completely and still decides to stay. The days that followed felt like stepping into a new world, a world that existed in the tiny apartment we shared, far from the expectations of families, gossiping colleagues, and the relentless pace of New York. Liam and I were navigating uncharted waters, and every moment felt both terrifying and thrilling. Emily had made herself our silent navigator, offering advice through sarcasm and gentle nudges. "You're both idiots," she would say, "but maybe lovable ones. Just don't kill each other before the wedding." I laughed more in those days than I had in years. Liam, too, seemed lighter somehow, shedding the arrogance and defensiveness that had defined him in our youth. And yet, beneath the laughter, there was an unspoken tension, a reminder of the past, the heartbreak, and the lingering fear that maybe this second chance wasn't meant to last. One evening, we were curled up on the couch, sharing a blanket and a bottle of wine Emily had insisted we open. The city hummed softly outside the window, distant sirens punctuating the quiet. "I never thought this would happen," Liam said, his head resting against mine. "That we'd end up here like this." "Neither did I admitted, tracing circles on his hand with my thumb. "But I'm glad we did." He lifted his gaze, those familiar hazel eyes searching mine for something: validation, forgiveness, maybe even love. "I was such an idiot," he murmured. "I hurt you, and I didn't even see it. Not fully. But now I see everything. I see you. And I don't want to lose you again." The words were simple, yet they struck me like lightning. Years of pain, longing, and unspoken feelings coalesced into that single moment. I didn't need a grand gesture, a dramatic confession, or a romantic declaration in the rain. I just needed him here, saying what he felt with honesty. I leaned closer, letting our foreheads touch, and whispered, "You won't. Not this time." As the days turned into weeks, the rhythm of our lives became more natural. We navigated the wedding planning, family dinners, and the unavoidable scrutiny of friends with a newfound sense of unity. Liam and I had learned to communicate without the drama, to understand each other's silences, and to support one another in ways we never could have in high school. Emily remained our constant companion in this journey, her humor and insight keeping us grounded. One night, as we were unpacking a box of old photos, she found a picture of Liam and me at 16, awkwardly smiling at the camera. "Look at you two," she teased. "Young, stupid, and hopelessly dramatic." I rolled my eyes but couldn't help laughing. Liam, however, seemed strangely contemplative. I didn't really understand what I had back then. "And now I can't imagine my life without you." The words were raw, unpolished, and utterly sincere. I felt a warmth spread through me, a deep sense of belonging that I had never experienced before. This was love, not the reckless, impulsive kind, but something steady, reassuring, and profoundly intimate. Wedding preparations brought their own challenges. Liam's family insisted on traditions, formalities, and the appearance of perfection. My own family, while supportive, added pressure with their expectations and endless advice. And yet, through it all, Liam and I found solace in the quiet moments, the late-night discussions about our vows, the shared laughter over mismatched decorations, and the stolen kisses in the chaos of catering appointments and floral arrangements. Emily, as always, was the voice of reason. "Remember, it's your wedding, not a Broadway show," she said, adjusting a stray ribbon on the bouquet. "If something goes wrong, at least it will be memorable." And memorable it was. From the moment we woke on the wedding day, the air was charged with anticipation, nerves, and a strange sense of inevitability. Liam, dressed in a crisp suit, looked every bit the part of the charming groom, yet there was a vulnerability in his eyes that made my heart ache. We stood together before the officiant, hands clasped, hearts racing. The ceremony was a blur of smiles, tears, and whispered reassurances. When it came time to exchange vows, Liam's voice trembled slightly, but his words were filled with sincerity. "I promise to love you, to see you, and to honor you, not because circumstances brought us together, but because I choose you every day," he said, his eyes locked on mine. I felt a lump in my throat as I replied, "I promise to stand by you, to laugh with you, and to grow with you. You are my home, Liam, and I choose you too." The officiant pronounced us married, and the world seemed to tilt slightly, as if acknowledging that something long overdue had finally been set right. Liam kissed me, softly at first, then with a tenderness that spoke of years of longing and newfound understanding. Emily, standing nearby, clapped and whistled. "About time," she said, her grin wide and unapologetic. The reception was a joyful blur. Friends and family celebrated with laughter, music, and dancing. Liam and I found ourselves occasionally stealing away from the crowd, holding hands, and simply enjoying the quiet intimacy that had always been the foundation of our love. As the night wore on, we sat on the balcony overlooking the city, the skyline shimmering with lights and reflections. Liam wrapped an arm around my shoulder, pulling me close. "I never thought we'd get here," he admitted. "I was so blind back then. But now I see everything clearly. You're my everything." I rested my head against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. "And you're mine," I whispered. The city stretched out before us, vast and infinite, yet in that moment, it felt as if we were the only two people in the world. The past, with its mistakes, heartbreak, and misunderstandings, seemed distant and insignificant. What mattered was the present, the love we had fought for, the trust we had rebuilt, and the life we were beginning together. The days after the wedding were filled with quiet contentment. Liam and I settled into our married life with a sense of ease and familiarity. We cooked together, went on spontaneous adventures, and shared countless small moments that deepened our bond. Emily continued to be our guiding star, offering wisdom wrapped in humor and affection. "You two are ridiculous," she said one evening as we lounged on the couch, "but somehow it works. Just remember to keep laughing." And we did. We laughed at our clumsy attempts to assemble furniture, at the minor disasters in the kitchen, and at the quirks that made each of us unique. The love that had once been tangled in pain and misunderstanding had transformed into a gentle, enduring connection, one that embraced imperfections and celebrated joy. Liam and I often reflected on the journey that had brought us together. The forced circumstances that once seemed cruel had become the catalyst for something beautiful. We had learned patience, forgiveness, and the importance of truly seeing each other. One quiet afternoon, as we sat in our favorite coffee shop, I watched Liam as he spoke animatedly about a new project at work. The sunlight highlighted the warmth in his eyes, the subtle lines that had formed over the years, and the unmistakable happiness that radiated from him. "You've changed," I said softly, reaching across the table to touch his hand. He smiled, a mixture of amusement and affection. "We've both changed. But some things haven't, like how much I love you." I felt a surge of emotion, a deep sense of gratitude for the twists of fate that had brought us back together. "I love you too," I whispered, squeezing his hand. As the months passed, our love continued to grow, evolving in ways we had never anticipated. We faced challenges, of course, career pressures, family dynamics, and the occasional disagreement, but we faced them together, with communication, empathy, and a shared commitment to our relationship. Emily remained a constant presence, offering support, encouragement, and the occasional sarcastic comment that never failed to make us laugh. "You two are unbearable," she said one evening as we recounted a particularly amusing misunderstanding, "but I wouldn't have it any other way." Through it all, Liam and I discovered the true depth of our connection. Our love was no longer defined by youthful infatuation or fleeting desire. It was rooted in trust, respect, and a profound understanding of each other's hearts. On quiet evenings, we would sit together on the balcony, watching the city lights twinkle below, sharing stories, dreams, and plans for the future. The world outside continued its relentless pace, but within our little sanctuary, we found peace, joy, and the kind of intimacy that only comes from knowing and being known completely. "I never thought I'd be this happy," Liam admitted one night, his head resting on my shoulder. "Me neither," I replied, feeling the warmth of his embrace and the certainty of our love. "But I'm glad we found our way here." And in that moment, surrounded by the soft glow of the city and the quiet comfort of each other's presence, I knew that our journey, marked by heartbreak, growth, and rediscovery, had led us to something truly extraordinary. We had learned that love is not about perfection or timing. It is about choosing each other, day after day, through every challenge and every joy. And as we held each other close, I realized that the love we shared was not only a testament to our past, but also a promise for the future filled with laughter, tenderness, and the unwavering certainty that we belonged to each other. The first winter in our new life together was surprisingly warm. Not in temperature, of course. New York had its usual bite, but in the way our little apartment glowed with shared routines, laughter, and quiet intimacy. Liam and I had settled into a rhythm that was ours alone, one punctuated by soft mornings, shared breakfasts, and the comforting hum of a life we had built together. Emily had, as always, been both our cheerleader and our tormentor. One snowy evening, as we struggled to untangle Christmas lights, she leaned against the doorframe, hands on hips, and sighed dramatically. "You two are ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But I suppose that's the point." I laughed, looping a string of lights around a branch of our tiny, somewhat crooked tree. Liam grinned, standing behind me, gently nudging my shoulder with his. The warmth in his eyes was a quiet echo of every heartfelt confession, every tender moment we had shared since our wedding. "You know," he said softly, "I never realized how much I loved these little moments until now. Until being with you every day." I froze for a heartbeat, then smiled, leaning back into him. "It's funny, isn't it? How love doesn't just happen in grand gestures, but in all the quiet, ordinary moments." He kissed my temple, soft and reassuring, and I felt a swell of happiness that made the cold winter air outside seem irrelevant. Our days continued in this gentle rhythm. We explored the city hand in hand, discovering hidden coffee shops, cozy bookstores, and late-night diners where the waitresses would tease Liam for his persistent indecision over pancakes. We celebrated birthdays, anniversaries, and even the smallest victories at work, learning to find joy in the mundane and beauty in each other's company. One particular evening, we attended an art gallery opening a modern collection full of bold colors and daring abstract forms. Liam, who had never been particularly interested in art, found himself standing beside me, studying a piece with unusual intensity. Look at this, he said, pointing to a canvas dominated by swirling blues and warm golds. It's chaotic, but somehow, it works. It's beautiful in its imperfection. I smiled, understanding exactly what he meant without needing to say a word. Our love had been chaotic, full of past mistakes and misunderstandings, yet somehow it had worked. And it was beautiful in its imperfection. We walked home beneath a canopy of city lights, fingers intertwined, hearts aligned in quiet contentment. The cold air nipped at our cheeks, but in each other's presence, it felt almost irrelevant. Weeks later, Liam surprised me with a weekend getaway. We drove upstate, escaping the relentless pace of the city for a cabin nestled among snow-laden pines. The moment we stepped inside, the smell of pine and the rustic charm enveloped us, and I felt a serenity I hadn't known I needed. We spent the days exploring trails, laughing at our clumsy attempts to navigate snowdrifts, and sharing stories by the fireplace. Liam, who had once been so self-assured and careless, now radiated a gentle confidence rooted in love, respect, and the comfort of being deeply connected to someone who truly understood him. One evening after dinner, we sat side by side on the sofa, the fire casting a soft glow over our faces. Liam reached for my hand, holding it close to his chest. "Do you remember that night on the balcony in New York?" he asked softly. I nodded, heart fluttering with memory. "The night you finally admitted what you were feeling?" He chuckled, a little embarrassed. "Yes, that night. I remember thinking, I could never let you go again. And now being here with you, it feels like we finally arrived. Somewhere we should have been all along." I rested my head on his shoulder, feeling the steady beat of his heart. "We've come a long way," I whispered. "And yet it feels just right." The snow fell silently outside as we talked late into the night. We shared dreams, hopes, and small confessions that only strengthened the bond between us. Liam spoke of ambitions at work, of wanting to travel, of little things he had never told anyone. I shared stories from my childhood, from my early struggles and my quiet victories. Through it all, we discovered the beauty of absolute honesty, the comfort of vulnerability, and the profound joy of being truly seen. There were no pretenses, no games, just two people who had once been lost and now had found home in each other. Emily, of course, had been right all along. Chaos might have brought us together, but love had kept us. And now, surrounded by snow and silence, we were learning to embrace the simplicity of just being together. Returning to the city, we found that our apartment, once just a space, had transformed into a sanctuary. Every corner, every shared object, every little quirk of daily life was imbued with the presence of love. Liam and I continued our routines: coffee in the morning, playful arguments over chores, lazy afternoons reading together, but each act felt meaningful because it was shared. One rainy afternoon, as we watched droplets race down the window, Liam pulled me close. "You know," he murmured, "I think I understand now. True love isn't fireworks or drama. It's this. It's us. Every day. Choosing each other." I smiled, feeling the truth of his words resonate deep within me. "Yes," I agreed, brushing a strand of hair from his face. "It's ordinary, but perfect because it's ours." As the months rolled into a full year since our wedding, we celebrated quietly. No grand parties, no excessive gifts, just the warmth of shared memories, and the comfort of knowing we had found something enduring. Liam, who had once been so focused on appearances and expectations, now understood the profound significance of love rooted in understanding, patience, and mutual respect. Emily, as always, observed with her knowing grin. "You two make me sick," she teased one evening, "but I can't imagine either of you any other way." We laughed, entwined on the couch, the soft hum of the city below us creating a gentle soundtrack to our lives. For the first time, the past felt like a distant shadow, and the future seemed bright, promising, and full of possibilities. One evening, as the sun dipped below the skyline, Liam and I sat on the balcony, wrapped in a shared blanket. The golden light highlighted the warmth in his eyes, the subtle lines formed over the years, and the undeniable joy of a love finally realized. "I never imagined life could feel like this," he said softly. "So full. So right." I rested my head against his shoulder, feeling the rhythm of his heartbeat echoing my own. "It's because we've chosen each other," I whispered. "Every day. Through everything." He kissed the top of my head, and in that moment, I understood the profound beauty of a love that had weathered storms, healed old wounds, and emerged stronger. It was quiet, it was gentle, and it was ours. Our story, once marked by heartbreak, misunderstandings, and the pain of youth, had transformed into something enduring, profound, and utterly beautiful. Liam and I had learned that true love is not about the mistakes of the past, the pressures of family, or the expectations of society. It is about connection, trust, and the willingness to see and be seen. And as we sat together on that balcony, watching the city glow beneath us, I knew that every step of our journey, the heartbreak, the forced marriage, the rediscovery, had led us to this perfect, simple, and undeniable truth. We were home. Together. Forever. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.